Welcome to the Wednesday, March 13th, 2012 Communication Commission meeting. We are calling the meeting to order at 7:06. And has everybody had a chance to review the agenda? And any amendments? Or will we approve it as presented? Amendments? None.
Approved.
Motion to approve. Richard?
Yes.
Second. Lauren? All righty. We'll move on. Have we had some time to think about the duties of the secretary? Bob has declined because of his very busy with his business, which is good news. Anybody else interested in doing the secretarial at this present time?
I'm busy
Not
with
at this
multiple
present
things at this time
time.
too.
Okay, well, I'll continue doing it. Perhaps another one of our commissioners will volunteer next time. Okay, has everyone had a chance to review the minutes of the February 13th, 2013 meeting?
Yeah, my only question was, I believe when we have excused, you were excused at the last one for, yeah, so that would have to be updated to get an E in there.
AB, absent. That's what we voted on. I think this is before you joined us.
Then do we need excused here anymore next year?
No, I can take that out. They asked us to just put absent and present at one point.
Okay.
So I'll amend that.
I was just wondering.
Not a problem. That was voted on. If I could pull it, I think, out of the minutes of a former meeting if you want. But they went to AB.
That's okay.
Okay. All right. We'll take care of that.
All
Anything else?
No.
Okay. And motion to approve by
I will move to approve.
Richard. Move. And second?
I second it.
Richard seconds. Okay. All right. Moving right along. The report of the standing committees. Mrs. Smith, our liaison.
Last Monday, not this past Monday, but previous Monday, the Groseal Township Board as well as the Groseal School Board got together for an informal dinner and just to have some conversations in regards to money-saving opportunities and where we might be able to not only share services, but pooling funds for purchasing power, so for rock salt, things along those lines. But everybody seemed like they were on the same page, realizing that both budgets were tight and we needed to do something to save the taxpayer dollars. And as far as GITV was concerned or anything along those lines, these are discussions that are still forthcoming. There were some groups that were developed outside of these or within these contents or conversations of creating like a marketing group to determine what do we do to attract new residents so that we can not only get more of a tax base but also new students to the island. There was a purchasing committee or commission formed and one or two other subcommittees formed. So as far as, I don't have a whole lot to lend or at least share as far as anything GITV wise, but once we start those conversations, I'll certainly want to have you a part of those, and anybody else who wants to be a part of it. So.
Absolutely. Well, it sounds like it was well received.
It was.
Good. Yeah. Good. Excellent. Anything?
And that is it.
Okay.
I don't have anything else that's purposeful or relevant right now.
That was plenty. Ted.
I don't really have a whole lot, just last couple of weeks we've been working with Tim Rooney getting Island Fest and recreation programs up on the web and Facebook. If you noticed, Monday night I stayed a little late after our meeting and the fates got me. I somehow or other deleted the calendar from the web page, so the next couple hours frantically I got a new calendar up, bottom line, so it was a bad thing that I deleted it, but it was a good thing that I deleted it. So we got a new calendar up on the web page. Basically, I've been waiting for you guys to decide which way you want to go as far as budgetary. It looks like our budget should pass. We have one more hurdle on March 25th, and that's usually not a problem. And so if, after talking to you today, Kathy, it looks like that your decision on the webpage will probably carry over to the next budgetary, so I'm going to start tomorrow pursuing 1/3 of the new equipment, probably the playback system, because that's a single source system and won't really have to go out for bid. We can just purchase it. So if that's what your final decision is, then before the end of the month, we'll take the money from the equipment for next budget, use that on the web page, and take the web page money from this budget and use it on equipment. So.
Well, we had at some of our preliminary meetings when we were talking about the website, I think we all realized, everybody in the room, that to get it done in that time period we would do a disservice, and we don't want to.
Well, it'll take pressure off of you, and we won't have to rush the decision, and at the same time, we won't give money back to the general fund. We'll use it.
Right. And I did have a discussion with the township treasurer, and I shared that with everyone. And he understands the situation and appreciates that we are taking this so serious. And I think we are. We want to do a good job. We want to do it right. And since you have been very prudent all year with your expenditures, that's why you have your little stash left, you should be buying the equipment you need.
Well, basically, historically, that the cable money has been a pool of money that we allocate in different columns, but it's the pool, and as long as I don't drain the pool at the end of the fiscal year, it's been okay. So, I mean, we earmark money just in case we need it in maintenance or education or something like that, but the money can go from one column to the other, just as long as the bottom line is we don't outspend the bottom line. So
I think he understood that, and it seems like everybody was in keeping with that. We want to do it the right way. We want to give the citizens the best possible website we can for the best price, and it's going to take time.
Just one other reminder, if anybody asks you about, the jump, this year, just remind them that the money is all from franchise fees, and usually we don't spend all the franchise money, but this will be a one-time increase of us spending the franchise money just to upgrade the TV facilities.
That was put in the minutes, that you reiterated the Communication Commission budget is funded from cable fees,
Right.
Comcast, WOW, and AT&T, and not from taxes.
Right.
I have a question, or maybe a comment, but I think your point is also well taken, that this is the franchise fees, and I think part of what informed our decision, too, were comments being made in the past, both by you, by other board members, about the need to make sure that we're able to keep broadcasting and keep getting those meetings out to our public. And we don't want to run the risk of losing that opportunity because we didn't jump on, repairs or upgrades or updates of our equipment. So I think we all kind of recognized that that was a priority.
Also, today I spent most of the day upgrading the Granicus file, the archive shows, which we have pretty close to 160 archive shows right now. I had a conversation with Lauren on Monday night. Some of her concerns will be addressed this Friday. I have a technician from Thalner coming in. We have a problem with the overhead camera at the moment. Lauren expressed concerns about how the lights go off and on the microphone, so we're going to see if we can address that. And also, we haven't used it maybe once or twice, but the sound on this computer is not wired into the system. So that's the third concern that we're going to address Friday morning. So basically, other than that, that's all I got.
Thank you, Ted. That's good. More improvements.
One more question, Kathy.
Certainly.
I'm sorry, Ted. I used to do this to you all the time. From over there, though. I know at some point you were looking for young kids, middle school, high school kids, to train and start working, staffing your cameras and the consoles and so forth. Do you want to use this opportunity to make a little plug?
Well, I'm going to work with Tim, and he's got another channels coming out in the spring, and I'm going to develop some kind of program where I might have 3 or 4 classes of interested kids. At this moment, due to lack of budget, I haven't been actively seeking new people, but you know, the staff at GITV, which is me, is very flexible on who we hire for, you know, get for help. So it would you know, behoove me that maybe train a few new 8th graders and freshmen, so I have them for 4 years. But Tim and I are going to do something through the channels, probably a summer, not a camp, but a summer class that would prepare kids for next school year.
Great. And Lauren, maybe that's something you can also bring to those joint sessions you have with the school board, is can they offer up some sort of credit, if not money, for the kids that might be interested in learning this?
At present, if the Grosse Ile student wants to take video, they basically have to go to Gibraltar.
Yeah.
And I think Trenton offers a class, or did at one point, unless maybe I'm mistaken, maybe the Trenton instructors now at Gibraltar, but yeah, I know when they remodeled the high school, they actually built a room so they could teach video or teach
Production.
and I just don't think the budget has offered that. But
But
if,
you know,
if they wanted to, you know, I could
unpaid-
come in and teach her maybe at 9:30, not at 8:30, but maybe 9:30.
Well, you know, Ted, unpaid internships are supposed to be all the rage in Hollywood, so, you know, that might be something that we offer the kids, is that they get maybe 6 months of unpaid experience, on-the-job training, and with the potential of being hired. Teach them what the real world is really like.
I know I have done a bunch of mentorships with students out of Trenton High School. They have I guess they do have a video class over there, because I've had a couple, a bunch of maybe 3 or 4 come over here, and I do a mentorship with them for 3 months or a semester or so.
Well, I know Mr. Hademaker, he's a 7th grade and 8th grade science teacher. He has, my son is in his class, he has the kids actually make videos using their video cameras, using video editing equipment on the computers to illustrate their understanding of scientific concepts. And so to date, I think Kieran's class has done at least 3 like 8 or 9 minute movies in groups of 3 and 4. I mean, that's talent waiting to be exploited, used.
Well, we,
Thank you. Tapped.
Utilized.
last year, the valedictorian from Grosse Ile High School, Matt Cloutier, was working for me out of a program that Tim and I did, where we did, we call it Film Frenzy, where we would have the kids do a movie in 48 hours, and Matt was probably the best one that we had out of that 3 or 4 times that we did that. And now he's taking his skills and he's actually working with the University of Michigan video department, doing all their promotional videos and doing some really high-tech stuff. But you mentioned the kids. The kids probably have better high-definition equipment than we have, so.
Probably true. Okay. Ready? My Chairman's report. First of all, I noticed the updated calendar today, and I thought it was really nice, Ted, and however we got it, it's great. It was really very nice. And I know a lot of times we've had comments about the GITV schedule, and today I wanted to watch The Island Eye, the newest edition, and I checked the schedule, and you were spot on with the time, which is wonderful to hear. And Pam did a great job, and so did Sharon, who was one of our commissioners. It was wonderful. And I do have to put a plug in for Roberta Hall, my cohort in crime with the Historical Society Holiday Gift Boutique. She was featured, and it was lovely. It was well-deserved for Roberta. So that's the plugs for Ted. Now on to at some of our meetings. We had questions about online payments and vendor feedback and internet website hits, and new formats for municipal websites. So I'm going to address that. I had some information pulled on dog tags, how many dog tags, and I found out why they don't put dog tags online. And I know this is something that you were concerned about, Lauren. you'd have to prove the documents on the animal and pick up the tag, and they want to actually see the actual documents.
Yeah, no, I didn't necessarily have a concern about it. I was questioning whether
What?
it's possible or not.
That's-
Only by at least having the forms in a document library that you can download at home,
Right.
fill out, and then bring in.
Yeah,
Real.
and that's what-
And it's just offering that sort of stuff. So-
And I agree with you. So I went further on that because, we wanted to see property and land and tax information. I wanted to go into that and see, first of all, the reduction in the web hits has been dramatic this year. Tax information has been researched down 63%. 63%. And, you kind of wonder why, and I do have the answer to that, I think. And property and land was researched down 30%. Dog tags were down property and land was 69% down. Tax information was down 37%, and dog tags were down 26%.
And where you get that information?
Right off from the BSNA information and from Ann, our finance person. And what was really interesting is why they were researching it less. And we figured it was because they did an analysis of the property a few years ago. Tim O'Donnell went out and they redid most of the property on the island and reassessed, and people were very curious. And that's kind of settled down now. I personally know that the Board of Review, since I happen to know one pretty well, and he told me that it's so reduced, the people coming in, than it was a couple of years ago. It's just dramatic. But then I went on. I said, okay, let's find out who pays online. And I thought this was kind of interesting. And I found out, and I got from the highest number, which would be in October. We have October, November, December, January, and February water bills. Because now we can pay online our water bills. And water bills are paid quarterly. So I took the occupied households, which are 4,143 divided by 4, so you got 1,036. We had 26 online payments. So not a lot, 2.5%, which was really surprising to me. And again, if they do pay online with a Visa or a credit card, it's 3%. And that's why you have so few people paying online for their taxes, which was, again, the taxes were, the highest number in those 5 months was 14, and that was the month of February, which is when they're due. And it was 0.34 of 1%. But I definitely think we should have this available. There's no doubt in my mind we should have this kind of amenity, especially on a new website.
Well, yeah, and we don't necessarily know those numbers from the standpoint of what sort of marketing and promotion was done to make people aware of these options.
I'm just giving you hard numbers, and I agree with you. I really think we should have this. Whether they take it, they go and use it or not, that's up to the individual. Most people at 3%, let's say taxes are $6,000 to $8,000. That's a big chunk of change. It's a lot easier spending the 47 cents or whatever, or driving down here. But in the $3 e-check, some people don't mind. It all depends on who you are and what your time is worth. But again, right now it's not a concern. But we are going to do a new website. We should have it available. But you wanted to know, I dug into it. I also found out that there are things that we really could do, like with the rec department. They can accept checks and they can accept Visa. They can go online and get the forms, but they can't. It's not interactive. But they could if we had it secure. And also, and you would probably be familiar with this, the T-hangers. There's 65 of them that they manually bill. And I was talking to the gal who did it.
Well, we do EFT transfers.
They do. I think there's one. Probably. There's one. And that was surprising to me. And I said, well, just think of just what we could save in postage and time. Because as, the staff has gotten smaller and smaller, we, of course, want them to utilize their time more efficiently and easier. I mean, who needs to do this? So that's something also that we could really add to or look into. But again, it's a minimum use currently of online, and for whatever reason, it is minimum. But this is the future. And even if they don't want it now, we have to prepare for it. So I thought that was good. Okay, and,
I'm sorry, I have a question.
Sure.
Sorry about that. I think you raise a really good point. We talked in the sub-session.
Work sessions.
That we had that was in the work session. And Lauren, one of the things we thought that would be really important for you to do as liaison is kind of work this through the board, because I don't know if it's necessary, but I'm thinking putting something like this through would be a board decision. I mean, we can always recommend, but the departments aren't necessarily going to
Right, yeah, I
embrace
think
it.
it's going to have to be a conversation that we have with the greater management staff to say, what's your comfort level? Where do you want to go with this? I mean, when we look at, like Kathy said, efficiencies and becoming more effective.
Oh, yeah.
And then you can make more data-driven decisions based on who's doing what online and whatnot.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think it'd definitely be more of a discussion point for everybody and then try and
Yeah, and I think it's most appropriate at the board level, so that we can, when we start looking for the website, we already know what some of the parameters are
Right.
before we do it, then getting to the board and then having the board say, well, we never discussed this.
Yeah, that was mentioned repeatedly at the meetings. We didn't happen to be there. And I did do an informal polling about content management. And I didn't get all the people, but I had 3 people that were not for it and 2 people that were for it. And so it's still, you'll need to talk to Mr. Posiak and Mr. Ranka, because they were unavailable. And we don't want to spend inordinate amounts of time doing something that, let's say, we don't want it, or we do want it.
Or that we don't even...
We haven't considered it, and we need to look at it longer. I mean, we spent a lot of time that last meeting when we were going through the ActiveX and hijacking websites. It was an interesting
Well, I
meeting.
think content management or not, I think realistically, most of it would probably be that way. It's just a matter of how it's going to be processed, how the information can be processed.
Well, and that's going to take a
So-
board
Yeah.
policy,
Mhm.
that before we can, look for the vendor, we need to know what is the board directive on how they want the information to be managed, by whom, whose responsibility is this going to be, what's the chain,
Right.
that it has to
And the
go.
cost.
And the cost.
The
The
cost.
decision's already been made because you put the RFP together
Well, we put it in there,
and
but
we have
that
26.
we put it in there, but you know what? That's
It's a
something.
requirement.
It can be. It can't be
So
if
what are
they
the
don't
other
want.
options then?
Well, would not have it. Or there's one, and in fact, I'm going to be showing that one. What's really interesting is the city of Pontiac has content management. And I said, how's that working for you? And he goes, the people, the politicians don't know we have it. And he said, I don't want them to use it, so we haven't told them. And I kind of went, okay. And so they have it, but they aren't using it.
But most sites these days are a content management site. It's just a matter of who's making the changes. So
Well,
it's either
they're
one
making-
singular person or it's multiple people and based on permissions.
But the way I was looking at it is,
CMS is really just,
I understand what you're saying, but it has to be decided on before we go forward, because if we do want that included, that is a price. Because I was talking to one group, I said, well, we're just really doing a redo. We're just a facelift. We're not really, we've already got all the information. In fact, we probably have too much information on the website. We have, it's chock full of great stuff. And I said, so wouldn't it just be a facelift? Well, because you want CMA, that's totally different, and that's no longer an update. That's a totally different thing. So if in fact the board doesn't want that, and I don't know, like I said, I have no decision-making powers, but if they don't want it, that might reduce the cost, and that's something we have to consider. Yes, dear.
I just wanted, obviously you guys have decided to do your due diligence and not just rush this through, so just a couple thoughts here. The life cycle of our first webpage was about 8.5, 9 years. The life cycle of the present is going to be 4 years in September. When you do this new webpage, consider how long this webpage is going to be in use, which is probably a minimum of 5 years before you'll want to do it again. Hopefully I'm not here after that, but
We don't want you to go to.
Well, they'll wheel me out. But what I'm trying to say is, make a decision on every feature. What is the optimum way to run a government today, run a township today? All these services that you offer, dog licenses. I've been trying to drag Tim into the 21st century over there at rec. He's leery of all this computerization back and forth, but there are many different ways that this webpage could help the fire department, the police department, every department here, especially since at this present moment we're 18 or 19 employees less than we were at the beginning of this century, or this decade. Let's make it smaller. So we're the staff, and I'm speaking for, and I'm going to tell you, they all work harder than me. The staff is really, really smaller than it was. So when you do this webpage, if we could put all the features that would a government in 2015 should be using with the technology, that would be the best way to present this webpage. Now, incentive. I can't cite you which companies, but I know I've run across it 2 or 3 times that if you walk up and pay your bill, there's a surcharge because I think it's even in the banks. If you go up and use a teller, there's a surcharge for using a real person, but if you stay home and use the computer, you're going to save 2 or 3 or 4%. So what I'm saying, it might be, as a township, that you present to the township board that, hey, listen, if they come in and pay their bill, it's a 3% surcharge, but if they use the web page, they're going to save 2 or 3%. So you got to give the people incentive to join the new technology, and many private sector companies are doing that. If you order something, there's a savings online, but if you go to the store, you're paying a little more. So that might be a way to promote using all these features that you guys decide. Each department should say, what could you do in the clerk's department that would eliminate, time for the clerk and the deputy clerk, and what can you do in the treasury department, and what can you do in community development and DPS, and all those features ought to be incorporated in rolling out this new web page. So it's good that you're doing your due diligence, but since you've made that decision, let's make sure that it's as state-of-the-art web page as possible when we roll it out, because it'll probably be there for 5 years, and if you put $15,000 into it, it might be there for 8 to 10 years. So look at the life cycle or the length of this web page is going to be there.
Ted, can you and Lauren perhaps, and Kathy, obviously with the commission, I guess make a case for how content management would enable this to be easier?
Oh, yeah.
So that people understand why it's being pushed. I think right now a lot of us don't understand exactly what its value is, besides the fact that it allows certain individuals to access, put work on the web page. As we talked in our subcommittee, the school district uses that kind of a system, but they're big, and they have a lot of employees, and they have a lot of chains of command. You don't want one principal uploading content for 20 teachers every day, and so it makes sense to have that system. We have, at the most, 7, 8 managers, and each of them has a department of self or 1 or 2, but if, as Ted says, that this type of methodology helps make it easier for everyone to get on what they need to, I think a case needs to be made for
where it's
that.
not bottlenecked and sitting somewhere if Ted's sick or on vacation or whatever it may be. Yeah, certainly defining the functionality.
Yeah, I think it needs to be defined, it needs to be
Well, I really wasn't
explained.
addressing content management.
No, I know
I
you
know.
weren't, but it's, Lauren had brought it
Yeah.
up, and then you came up and talked about, the efficiencies that a web page can offer to a township. And I mean, you don't want to you don't want to make it sound like, well, this will enable us to do it without people, and then the union jumps all over us. But at the same time, we do have, our staff has shrunk incredibly over the last 10 years, and everybody has so much more to do. And if there are, and this goes for all the people that live here, too. They are all dealing with more workload, less staff, less support. If these are conveniences that you say will take us into the middle of the 2020s or the 20-tweens, I can't believe I just said that, then that is definitely another way to look at what the purpose of the webpage is.
Well, basically, what I'm saying, and not us particularly, but the generation that's graduating from college and starting families, they're doing businesses on the run in their car on iPhones and iPads and through applications and stuff like that, which we haven't even begun to address. I'm just saying there's two things. Content management would enable each department to handle their own additions to the system we got right now is that if something's wrong on the webpage, you dial me and yell at me.
Right, and the content management also it would still be the same system that currently is running now from the standpoint of if it's a matter of setting up who's doing what, and let's say the decision was, Ted, you're still going to be the website administrator and things will still funnel through your department and it will be your responsibility to update. It's still the same thing. It's still a content management system.
The elephant in the room on content management is you guys as a commission and Lauren and you as a township board are going to have to decide if the web page is a tool of the township management and government or the township elected officials. And so you guys are going to have to come up with a policy. You're going to have to come up with a policy that says that the township manager, Dale Reum, or at the present, and whoever he appoints, me at present, is going to manage the content and be solely responsible for what goes on there. And what content management opens up the possibility of politicians, a.k.a. Pontiac, being able, not allowed, being able to put stuff on there, and you guys are going to have to decide if you want to allow that or you don't want to allow that. And I have an opinion of it, but I don't live here, so.
But that's been kind of
But there's no written policy. See, nobody has done a policy. We have a policy on the webpage that used to say Northville.
Yeah.
And I just subtracted all the Northvilles and put Grosse Ile on it, and it says on the bottom, this is a proposed policy. So you guys, as a commission and the township board, has never done a policy for social media, never done a policy for the webpage, and these are things that have to be in writing and a decision made that hasn't been done. And so we're in the process of doing our third generation webpage without any of that ever having been done.
And really, that is the true obstruction to getting the webpage the way the community and the board wants it. It's the fact that there has never been that dialogue at the board level about the policy. What do we want this site to be available for? And that's where it wasn't individuals that held it back. It was the fact that the discussion never took place. And it needs, that was one of the things we were talking about. It's really hard for us to recommend a site, for instance, if we really don't know who is, what is the policy governing the site. Some sites might be better, might work better under a one manager delineation. Other sites might work better when you have multiple managers. So until really the board decides what it sees as the vision for this tool, it does become really hard to move forward, because we can recommend as long as the day is, if they're not on some sort of a level, if you're not as a board on a level, you'll have a very hard time coming to a consensus.
Right, and I know at one of the work sessions that I was at, and Kathy and I, and general conversation was having a strong policy, having something to make sure that this was not going to become a lobbying tool or an opinion piece, that this really needed to be more about facts, about providing services to the residents and whatnot. But I've got, part of our agenda on 7B is talking about policy, and I've got some, potentials, and I know that the way I see it is both of these can probably move in tandem, because I don't see a new website being launched for several months, because the amount of work that has to be done to actually have all that created before you pull the trigger on a new website is going to be monumental. It's, writing copy, it's working with the township, staff to determine what they want and all that, so there's a ton of work. So these two can be going down the road together, and I'm sure that we can get, collectively as a group and me as a liaison can get the board to come to a consensus on how this site will be managed. So whether it's one person, whether it's an outside vendor that we call up anytime we have something or send an email to, or whether the individual department heads take responsibility for those. I mean, we've got some things to discuss, but I think that we should move forward, because realistically, even if you look at all this stuff and the pretty sites and the functional sites that we've seen from the 26 different vendors that they provided, the content's pretty much going to be the same from the standpoint of you're probably still going to have document libraries, you're still going to have some structure to it. It's the form and the function. So
one thing, I don't know if you're at that meeting, there was a subcommittee, so to speak, I think, Uta, you were on it, 4 years ago for the website.
The Web Advisory Committee.
The Web Advisory Committee, and it never moved forward to the board, but there was a policy, my understanding, developed.
Well, no, just to clarify, that is, what came out of that committee was Ted initially taking another community's policy statement and kind of boilerplate, but setting it to Grosse Ile and putting on there that it was a temporary,
so that's what I was just talking about.
it was a temporary policy statement. And from that point forward, and I know you did this at many of your commission meetings, was trying to drive the policy forward. Even before you joined the committee, but it never came out of the commission,
Okay.
and we tried to have the discussion at the board, and there was a disagreement, like where is it supposed to come from? And I think as liaison, you're in a good position to work between the two bodies, and build a consensus at that level and come back with some guidelines for us, because we don't drive the policy at this level, at least not how I understand it.
Well, a lot of the problems, to be totally honest with you, on a personal level, I am so tired of this webpage argument that's been going on since 2007. Whenever I hear the webpage, I just kind of want to shrink and hide somewhere. I don't mind doing it, I don't mind updating it, I just don't like the arguments anymore. But most of the arguments have been putting the cart ahead of the horse, and the horse is the policy. And if we can come up with a policy, then I think the webpage will flow naturally out of the policy. But we've had all kinds of little stupid arguments, and should we put business on there? Is it an ad? Is it a location? Should we do this? Should we do that? Who should do it? All this once we have a policy, there won't be an argument. We'll just go to the policy. It's like, there's the Constitution, can we do it or we can't do it,
And that's why I stopped having the meetings. The last meeting we had, Uta and Mr. Nielsen were there, and we just said, we got to find out. I said, well, I'll do an informal, and so far I only have 5 of the 7, but it seems like the policy is the sticking point.
Well, just so you know where we're starting,
Yeah.
Dale and I have kind of had this as a guideline, and I'm not throwing Dale under the bus, because I, as an employee, look, as Dale is the wall between me and the elected officials. If you were to define the webpage for Grosse Ile Township is like the Encyclopedia Britannica for the township. We want to put as much information about what's going on, things that people want to look up, laws, policies, ordinances, how to vote, how not to vote, how to use Tim's department, what's the best way to golf, when's the meetings, what happened at the meetings. So it's an informational webpage. It's not a marketing webpage. At no point is the webpage marketing Grosse Ile and say, come live here. That's Opportunity Grosse Ile's thing. They're marketing. So we have used it strictly as a encyclopedia of Grosse Ile Township, and that's pretty much what's on it. If you want to know who does what, when, and where, and how, it's on the webpage. And
Policy would be helpful,
Yeah,
if we want to do more.
We at one point we were accused of advertising for businesses, and all what we did is people call us up and say, we do business in Grosse Ile, and we made a list. These people do business in Grosse Ile, So, it's not promoting anybody over anybody. You want to go to church in Grosse Ile, here's your 5 options. You want to join a club in Grosse Ile, here's your 4 or 5 options. You want to be in a service club, here's your 4, 6, 8, 10 options.
It's kind of an indirect marketing of the community.
It's a
not
picture of the
overt.
community, but it's not coming here, it's not saying, come here and live here.
Right, it just says, well, this is what we've got.
This is what
It's
we have.
complementary to it, but we certainly don't want to take over what Opportunity Grosse Ile is
Exactly.
already doing, because that's not our function.
That should be the DDA or the Chamber of Commerce or Opportunity Grosse Ile, that's their function, that's why they exist,
Well, and to be honest, I think Opportunity Grosse Ile's website grew out of these early conversations, because I think there was a bit of a wall that the board, that the majority of the board did not want to be engaged in overt marketing and in overt advertising. Opportunity Grosse Ile took that on as a mission and its own, goal. And I think that was a really good division of the labor.
They're everything we're not. We're not artistic, we're not artsy-fartsy, we're not saying, the Opportunity Grosse Ile's webpage can be everything we're not.
Or, when we get our new webpage, we can be a lot with the artsy.
Well, some people think the Mona Lisa's beautiful, some think she's the ugliest girl in town. So,
They didn't know.
and some people think she's a guy in drag, so, basically, the beauty of anything is to the eye of the beholder, but, the function is what we're concerned of. And once you guys come up with a policy, then everything will flow a lot better.
And if I can just say one more thing, what you just brought up is, as a board, has access to the township attorney and can ask, because there were questions of, is it legal to do this on a municipal website? Those are questions we can't get answered. We have to go, essentially, we're going to go through you, but to get it otherwise, we would have to go through 5 or 6 different steps. Well, that's something that the board really needs to be involved in deciding, what direction, and then ask the lawyer, if we want to do this, can we?
Right.
So I think, again, like you said, that's the horse that's going to pull the rest of this. And until those questions are really delineated, I think once those questions are answered, we'll know who's going to be able to provide the best service.
I agree with you, and I will tell you that some other websites, because I've gone through dozens and dozens and dozens in the state of Michigan, and some openly advertise, and some don't. And they have attorneys too. So it's, how...
Well, I've been on every township website. There's like 1,200 townships in Michigan. I've been on, seriously, and I know I gave you a stack of papers of things that different, there was, one of them on the front page, they got what the burial rates are and what it costs to dig the grave and how much the grave digger gets. I can't remember what township, but that's on the front page of their webpage. But my point in standing up here is to say, now that you're going to do this, I think it behooves us to go to each department and say, how can we make you more interactive with the citizens of Grosse Ile, for two reasons: to make it easy for the citizens of Grosse Ile to participate and to use the government, and B, cut the workload down for the employees at Grosse Ile Township. So I think that that's however you say manages, whoever manages it, you know, and I'm not giving up my authority at this time, and if you decide to divide it, fine. If you want me to do it, fine. I just think that if we're going to spend the money, and we're going to probably spend a lot more money than we thought at the beginning, we might as well have it functional both ways, as functional as possible both ways.
So were no conversations conducted prior to the RFP going out with
No.
all the department heads?
No.
No, okay.
They don't really want to talk about it. You know, I have a meeting tomorrow, and I'm going to give the same speech I've given 30 times about how each page belongs to not me, belongs to, you know, the fire chief and the police chief. It belongs to that department. And what is on that page is not my responsibility, it's what your responsibility. I'll put it there, but you know, Tim and I are working really close in the last couple of weeks. Community development's always on top of their webpage. The fire department is starting to maintain their personnel and stuff a lot more. So it's growing, but I cannot tell you how tough it has been pulling all these departments to understand that the webpage is their tool. Their page is their tool, you know, and as soon as that understanding takes place, it'll be a lot easier.
Well, one thing, and I wanted to bring this up again, I am a finance person and I do beat on numbers, but what we're trying to get the people, we want everybody here, but we really are trying to not lose the people between 35, and let's say 30 and 60. In the last census, we lost over 800 people, which is considerable. You know, it's like 8% in that key market that we want to keep. And perhaps the website is not the end-all and be-all, but it's something that might make them think twice about leaving because we have something to offer and we're showcasing it, and that's what we're trying to do. I mean, this is important. And I don't think we ought to belabor it anymore because I do want to get into those three websites, and then we can move forward because we can do study sessions on policy and opinions left and right. But I do want to talk about the Pontiac website because in our meetings, when we were reviewing the 26 potential bidders, we didn't have a lot of the new format. And I think that was something that I know Sharon was very concerned about, Commissioner Sharon Thomas. So I found some that I thought, and correct me if I'm wrong, Lauren, you agreed about the first one, Pontiac, being just stellar. And I want to show that, and I'm going to show a couple more. And then I have some interesting things, because I did speak with the people, and I think you'll be surprised. This website is just everything we were talking about. It's a full page. It's bright, it's vivid. There's 4 different pictures that are hero images that go across. It's new, it's about 2 weeks old. There is a myriad of information here. On the bottom, you have your footers that take you to places. It's just a beautiful website by Revise. Lovely, lovely document. And they also did another one, the state of Lansing, Michigan. I'm going to go to that one next to show you. Because we were having a conversation, should we go forward with a more updated look? And as Ted recently just said, we should do as much as we can to move forward, because we might keep this thing for quite a while. Let me just pull it up. And enter. It's a little slow. And there's Lansing, and this is also done by Revise. And it's another beautiful website, very modern, very new, futuristic, more or less, showcasing what they have to offer. And the last one I was pointing to was East Grand Rapids, so let me get that one. And this is something because we were challenged to do this, and I don't like to not research when I'm asked to do it. Okay. This was a different look, and this is by Civic Plus, another one of our bidders. It's bright, it's friendly, it's just cheery, and I think this is even I think that's adorable, and I'm not really into that, but just adorable. But it's a great look, and this is the way the future is going, and I really want us to consider that. But what was very interesting, I did talk to the people from Pontiac, and I'm done with this. I can turn this off now. But I wanted does anybody have any questions up at the websites? Okay.
Do all three websites have that kind of a slideshow?
Yes.
That just goes without?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's the new look. It's called a hero image, and it's a full screen. It goes, left to right full, and you can change it. And as I mentioned at the last meeting, and I don't know if it was at the township meeting, I've talked to the Eel Camera, and they have graciously allowed us into their archives. All we have to do is give them a byline. I've spoken to Lena, and she spoke to her editor, and so we have access to 50 years of, yes, and there's no cost, which I think, it's an easy thing. Okay, hey, something in the fall is coming up, let's go down there and let's bring some vintage pictures up, or, we've just got access to a treasure trove, and they're professional pictures, and what a photographer costs, so that is exciting, and they change them every 3 years. Now, one of the problems with the school's website that I've heard is that they didn't change the pictures since they've instituted it. And not that it matters to everyone, but it does matter to some people that these are old pictures. They want their kids, and I understand it. But let me continue on about my conversation with Pontiac. This is great. Okay, that website has 184 pages.
The Pontiac?
The Pontiac one. It is 2 weeks old, so it's brand new. It cost $6,900 total cost, and that includes 5 years of hosting, and at the end of 5 years, they will do a new one for free.
Who is it?
Revise. They bid us $9,800. So there's a lot of room in there to negotiate. I've asked for a copy of it. As of yet, I haven't, but I'll call again because I'm kind of a pest. But I had him read me the invoice, and then I said, well, how did it go about? Because we talked about wanting people from Michigan. If it's feasible and it's a legitimate comparison in price. And he said they met with the gentleman once. That's all they met with physically. They did all of it over the phone. They developed a site map where the web pages are and connect to each other, and they imported and migrated the data. That took longer than anything else, which no matter what you think it's going to take, it always takes longer. A month to go to page transfer and forms. They weren't always transferred over easily. They kind of rushed them to put the site up because I think they wanted to show the new look. I think everybody's into this new look, and we're on the cusp of it, thank the Lord. So it was very interesting talking to him. I asked what was the downside of this vendor. Well, I have somebody I'm going to ask that. He just felt that because of the level of competence in the technology, the trainer was basically doing things a little too elementary. But that's really, if you have people who don't have the technology and they're doing it, that would be a help. But he thought, he was very satisfied, and they have 62,000 residents, and they get 10,000 hits a month. Wow. So I thought that was interesting.
That's good.
So that's I think I pretty much talked everybody's ear off. One other thing I found out, and I don't know about this, I didn't have much time, but living in Lansing, their Lansing region was recently awarded a 5-star quality of life quotient. by Expansion Management Magazine. So I'm going to look into that and see why Grosse Ile wasn't on there, and see what we can get from that. But that's my report, and if anybody's got any questions, feel free to ask. No? Okay, well, let's move on to the next point. And I don't have that right in front of me. I'm looking at everything. Okay. New business. Do we have any?
Anybody?
Nope. Discussion. Review of work session progress. Well, I think we did talk quite a bit about it. We had 4 sessions. We'll have many, many more, but I think we're at the policy statement. So why don't you take that one?
Sure. I know coming out of some of those sessions, it was mentioned that policy is going to be an important thing. So I started doing some research. I looked at many municipalities, both large and small, what their website policies were, both from an employee standpoint and a public standpoint. So I kind of cobbled together some of the best from the multitudes that I looked at, and I did the same thing, inserting Township of Grosse Ile where necessary. This is a 6-page document. I printed out one for everybody here. One of the things, sorry, I don't have one for you. I can get one to you.
Can you email them to us?
Sure. Great. One of the things that I thought was very good in here is, website is not intended to be a forum for expressive activity by members of the public. The purpose of this policy is to ensure the Township of Grosse Ile website does not become a public forum for limited public fora, but rather is maintained for the exclusive use of the Township of Grosse Ile in communicating matters of general public interest. So there's like the general purpose statement, there's provisions as far as accuracy, everything from how minors are treated in regards to the webosphere, external website link policy, accessibility policy, security statements, prohibitions, disclaimers. This is pretty comprehensive. And I think if we want to get to that task stage of getting something completed, how about if I email this to everybody and we take the next 2 or 3 weeks, or even if we feel that we can't hammer through this until the next meeting. But I myself, like we had mentioned, I think it's important to get some policy conversation going at the board level so that we know how to proceed. I don't necessarily think that should prohibit us from narrowing down our vendors and then maybe bringing in those vendors, because whether have a CMS system or it's the back-end management that what we're trying to figure out with the policy. So, how does everybody feel as far as timing to review, look at best practices of other townships, and then either we meet or maybe we put together a document that can be edited online and Google Docs or something along those lines?
Well, I think this is great that you have this, but I think the place to start with this is with your board, and is to have them work with you to hammer this out.
Okay, so we don't want to do something, recommend it, say this is what we as a group collectively came forward with. Would you rather me take this to them and say this is what I have done as far as research with anything? But I just don't know if we're hitting, I don't know if I'm hitting everybody's concerns here with what's contained in this.
Why don't we just look at it? I'm going to read this about 6 times, and I'm going to have some comments, and perhaps what we could do is everybody take 2 weeks, and then we'll have a work session on it.
Okay.
Because why would we do this on the air? People don't want to hear us.
I just hesitate that we will spend a lot of time on this, and we will come to a consensus.
And they won't.
And we'll take it up there, and they'll be like, huh?
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
so, and maybe what, you're right, that we take a look at this, and we work our way through it to come to a consensus, but do it in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Do it in one session, and then kick it back up to the board.
Right. Okay.
So that they can work on it.
yeah, because one of the things that I had asked in one of our closed session meetings with the full board a couple weeks ago was, how do you guys want things done from a standpoint from the commission level? Do you want recommendations to funnel up, or do you want board goals and objectives to funnel down? How do you foresee this unraveling? And the general consensus was it's a two-way street, but if they're looking to us as experts to provide the recommendations to them, because they don't necessarily know every little bit and piece about policy as well, or not necessarily policy, but from the standpoint of the website, what we're looking for the back-end management, things along those lines.
But they do have a gut feel. That I can
yeah,
tell.
I'm sure.
And I think we just got a real good point. 2 weeks, go ahead, I'm sorry, Richard.
Also, since we're coming up with we're looking at a policy, there's the attorney for the Grosio who should look at it as well.
Well, I think once we
Very good point.
put it up to the board level, and the board either reviews it, has questions, commentaries, and at that point, the attorney can probably get involved, because we don't want it to go back and forth to them a zillion times with changes, and then we're going to be billed at an hourly rate, and before we know it, we're
That
at a
is true.
zillion bucks just for a policy.
Yeah.
Zillion is not a good number.
Well, and that's where this becomes a catch-22, because a good attorney might have already a competent boilerplate in place that they could recommend that we move forward with, so that we're not reinventing the wheel. At the same time, I know that a lot of these different topics are sticking points. And again, just coming up with the purpose, we can certainly make a recommendation, but I know after our recommendation, the board will still take time to consider whether or not they agree.
Right.
And so I guess I'm
they're
trying
just
to be
not
more
going
pragmatic
Yeah,
and say,
unilateral.
you know what, how about you tell us, first of all, what the parameters are? What do you foresee allowing and not allowing, and we'll work around it? Because we could build a very, you see why this becomes so complicated. We could build a very beautiful policy, and then they'll all be like, huh? And so even in 2 weeks, when we discuss this, we should be able to have reasons for what we believe works or doesn't work. That if we do present this to the board, at the same time, we have almost like track changes.
Right.
You know, that says,
Right.
this is why we like this, so that they understand
The rationale
what
behind
our
it.
rationale is. Or they do the same thing, and we all come together in 4 weeks or
Right.
something. You know,
Right.
that's the other way to do it.
Well, why don't we take it home and read it?
Okay.
And
This is not to be read right now.
No, this is not to be read right now. We got 6 pages to read, and why don't we take a look at that, and then we can start deciding. I'll send out emails going, okay, everybody read it? Want to meet when? Do you have any questions? And we'll go back and forth that way.
Do you have the list of communities that you took this from?
I do.
Okay.
And you
So
can send that to
That would be
us,
helpful
so.
for us to know, too, to see, you know, what kind of communities these are,
Yeah, it helps.
how we compare to them.
Feedback and.
Yeah. Well, and just the whole idea of, well, do we compare ourselves with this community? You know, are we similar?
I don't necessarily know that similarities, they don't have to be in,
No,
Highland
I'm
or
just saying it
10,000.
helps
I
to
think
inform your
having a
opinion.
strong policy is encompassing
Well,
everything.
let's take that home and read it, and we'll work from there. Any other policy item?
Well, all I wanted to say, it's not that the community that used that policy, it's just, it gives us an idea of what kind of a community values these kind of things, so that we can kind of draw, you know, comparisons from that.
All righty. One thing, I'm sorry I didn't get it in before. Last month, we handed out our Voight Bridge documentary DVDs, and Bobby weren't here, and so I got them for you. It's a memento. It's lovely. It's also on GITV, and very historic and informative. I thought you might enjoy that.
Okay, thanks.
Me too. And Uta. I said, God, I've got 2 more left. And Uta, you too.
I couldn't make it that night. I know you called me.
Yeah, I didn't mean to snub you at all. Okay, we talked about that. Public comment? There is none.
Before we move on to public comment, can I add another discussion?
Absolutely.
All right, let's add C real quick. I know in an email I had sent out a while ago, I was hoping that everybody could take a look at the proposals that were submitted and submit their, 3 to 5 best out of the 26. Did anybody add any more? Richard, I know you provided the one during our one meeting.
And I looked at some other ones and we discussed it.
Yeah.
So is there an ongoing list? Does somebody have that list of where that's
The
at?
ongoing list is actually up on the whiteboard. in the-
Yeah, we still have it.
Okay, all right. So did you provide your commentary?
Yeah.
ePro is what we're to put on.
And
Just one?
Just the one, and it was based a lot on our conversation at that meeting, because I also liked Revise, but there were some things that Richard pointed out to us, and we asked him to explain why he liked that one so much, and so maybe
Richard, would you like
that's
to?
a step up for Richard.
Well, one of the things I passed out the last time we met was information. Thank you.
It's on.
Yes, it is.
No, it's off.
No,
It's muted.
no, it's off. I passed out information on HTML, hiding the code. I passed out information on ActiveX, as well as open source versus closed source, and how a site can be manipulated if it's completely open source. In 5 minutes, I changed the Rosie's webpage. Now, I didn't set it upload to the internet, but if you can change a web page in 5 minutes, it shows you why you have to hide your code, and you also have to copyright in your code. There was the reason why I recommended the web design initially was because that was the only person who had a copyright in their actual code.
And it was expired.
And it was expired. It expired in 2008. So I think if we do have our new website, we have to hide some of the code, and we have to have a copyright on it. I also think we should not have ActiveX in it, and I emailed information on why ActiveX is not good. I also printed out some hard copies, and Kathy has one. I can email again. It's pretty self-explanatory, but it tells you why ActiveX is not. It's just not safe.
It was an interesting work session when we all of a sudden, we're hijacking this.
Yeah,
Well, it was-
you can literally hijack
It was
a web page in 5 minutes.
fascinating. It was just fascinating. So,
And if anybody wants a copy of the ActiveX, I have another copy here. I also have a copy of why you should hide HTML. I think it's pretty important to include those.
excellent points. Okay,
So Bob, do you have any?
did you have
Well,
anything?
based on my limited knowledge, I'm endorsing Revised.
Okay. Bob, revise. What did you like about it? Was it tonight?
Yeah, mostly, I haven't had a lot of time to spend on it, but it looks like it's user-friendly, it's visually pleasing, it had everything you need. And the price was, I thought, very reasonable.
I like the 6,900 a lot better than 98.
Well, and we can use that as leverage. If
Oh,
we
yeah.
know that
Right.
it's 6,900, then...
Isn't that something?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we don't know if we're comparing apples to apples either, so.
184 pages. 184 pages. I was really surprised. I kept saying, why?
Yeah,
Why?
get a copy of the rest of it.
Yeah, trust me, I'm on it. Okay, well, and that is it then?
Kathy.
Well, yes, dear?
I just wanted to ask this, well, I just turned myself off
I'm not the
again.
only one who has problems with these.
I think after all, so, well, you talked about having this policy discussion in 2 weeks, but our next meeting is April 10th. Are you planning to schedule another, study session in between?
If I can.
Okay.
I thought we'd give everybody a week to digest this. We'll send some emails back and forth, and then we'll decide. I know people might be gone for Easter.
Yeah.
I don't know. If that's a problem, then we'll move it, but I want to start moving forward on this. We had this week off because I was trying to get direction informally. So why don't we just do that, and then we'll shake out who's got, if anybody's here or everybody's out of town, then we can't do it. We'll work with it.
And Lauren had a good idea, too, that we could each make some comments on, well, of course, we'd have to scan it in or something, but we could at least send our comments to you, and you could collect them all.
Okay.
As our chair, and then disseminate them amongst us. If
Or
you can't-
I can send out the document as a Word with already the, why can't I think of it? I can picture it right now.
On the PDF?
Having the review already available on it.
okay.
So that once people start typing or highlighting or whatever, it'll automatically put that stuff into a column on the side, and then they should just resave the document as their own name or whatever, and then send it to Kathy
Okay.
so she can compile the results.
Not a problem. So, okay, that's it then, and...
I got a question.
Yes, Bob?
We might want to consider remote meetings because of people's schedules. I mean, there's go-to meetings.
Yeah, there are.
Even if we got a Word file going, like Lauren mentioned on Word documents, face-to-face meetings are difficult. I think we can make a lot of progress just if we could get used to remotely sending out emails and responding. If we get people used to that, we can get stuff done very quickly.
I'm sorry, Bob, I gotta be the party pooper, but that doesn't qualify as an open meeting, and
You can
we're,
have an open meeting after you get things done.
Yeah.
The problem is, we're not making progress. In my opinion, we don't make progress as quickly as we could. If we had remote meetings and then got to a point where we could have a live meeting, we could make a lot more progress.
so what you're recommending is maybe we have 1 month or every other week a study session remote, and
No,
we have a monthly
no.
meeting in
Well,
public.
not really.
I think just as it pertains to work,
So,
like if we're looking at...
Lauren has attempted it. She said, here's a document, I need the best 3 out of 5, please give me your comments. We can handle almost everything like that. If we can send out information, whatever you need, Kathy, and get people used to responding, and you can even mark up the Word documents yourself and send it back, and then we can gather it that way. And once we have enough information where we have a quorum on an issue, that's where you meet meet in person, because Sean and Bob obviously have scheduling problems.
Well, we did send it out, and to be honest, we didn't get a response.
Well, to be honest, you have to get people used to it. It doesn't happen
Yeah,
overnight.
but Bob, you got a problem here, because what you're suggesting, and it borders on, remember 10, 15 years ago, there was an issue about
Phone polling.
phone polling, and maybe not using a phone, but what you're using works great in business, but there's government restrictions on how you meet and how many you meet. I mean, the board every December has to vote that they can all go to the same Christmas party.
Yeah.
I mean, there are quorum problems.
That's not what I'm talking about.
I know what you're talking about, but you cannot, and I'm taking back technology, you cannot get on the phone and say, Kathy, are you in favor of this? Bob, are you in favor of this?
I'm not
Lauren, are
saying
you in
any-
favor
I'm
of
not
this?
saying in
But
favor of anything.
you
I'm
can't
talking-
if you're working things out, it's got to be,
It's got to be in a
in
public...
government, it's got to be in the public eye.
So what...
That's why you have live meetings afterwards. You don't create anything except you have ideas that you share.
Yeah, I think that's what it is, it's just idea
That's the
sharing.
way you do things nowadays.
You're sending your information.
Well, I would double check with the rules.
I'll be
and-
contacting.
I'll just say our supervisor is a stickler for the Open Meetings Act, and I would say get clearance from him to do it.
We have
because
to,
I don't think that's...
Skyping and
The public doesn't have access to your debate, your discussions, and your rationale. So you can have a study session in this room without cameras, and the public has the option to attend. Like the school board has 1 month a meeting with cameras, one meeting
no, every
a month
other
without
week, every
cameras.
other week, the
Every other
second
week.
Tuesday and the fourth Tuesday.
But they're still holding those working sessions in a public place where the public has access. And
I don't think people are following. I'm not even talking about working sessions. I'm talking about accumulating information amongst
it's the
ourselves.
same thing, Bob,
If
I'm
you think
sorry.
so, that's fine.
But, I mean, find out.
I'm all in favor of it, but I
Find
just
out.
think I don't think
Just
the
don't
rules
say-
are written I don't think rules have been written to have caught up with the technology.
Yeah, I
Because
think-
it would be great if you could all Skype each other in a conference call and having an open meeting, as you can do in businesses. But if it's a meeting among a government board, which you guys are, there are some, you guys, I would at least check out and see if
I
it
will take
works,
care of that, checking on this, because it's a
I
great
would
idea.
hazard to guess that even our notes with track changes would be foilable, just as these are
There's
foilable.
nothing wrong with that.
So it's, you just want to make sure you're not, in the name of being efficient, stepping in something that someone else is going to come after you for doing.
Business can take off, government's a dinosaur. And the rules, and yours is a lot more efficient doing it your way, but government isn't always efficient, it's sausage making.
Anything else, Bob?
No, that's fine.
Oh, thank you, though. And our next meeting will be April 10th, and do I have...
Can I just make one comment?
Certainly.
Remind each and every one of you that March 25th is the annual township meeting. Reception is at 6:30 here. You're all invited. The appointments as the chair of each board, and you guys will all be acknowledged if you're here as being on the board, but the annual township meeting will take place, I think it's at 7:15, for as long as that lasts, usually an hour, and then the regular business meeting will take place after that, but the reception's at 6:30, and as commissioners, you're all invited to here for the evening, so.
Thanks for that reminder.
Thank you.
Okay, so real quick, again, before we adjourn, as far as the 3 to 5 or whatever everybody's, if they're rock steady on one or whatever, doesn't it make sense for us to at least whittle down that list and start inviting people in?
I think we have whittled it down.
I'll go to
We have? When have we done that?
Oh, at least selected. If you look on the whiteboard in there, you can see the people have basically knocked out some. We've knocked out quite a few of them.
I'll send this out, I'll take it up and send it out, and then we can explore that.
So did Sean provide his?
No. I will ask him again,
Okay.
so. And he couldn't come tonight at the last minute, so.
Can you send out that list to everybody?
That's what I just said, I'll do it.
Okay.
Great. All right, our next meeting is April 10th, 2013, at 7 p.m. Motion to adjourn?
Motion adjourned.
And second?
I second it.
And Richard, and we are done at 8:22. Thank you very much. And Richard, second.